women will often not trust their learning. They're more likely to go and get a master's or keep training, keep learning, keep training, doing something else before they launch themselves or before they say they're adequate or capable. Whereas in comparison, men are earning more because from that first degree or that first training, they've gone out and they said, yeah, I can do the job. Give me the job. So they're already on the ladder while we're waiting. Waiting for what? For whom? Nobody's going to tell us that. We have to figure that out for ourselves. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite-Sized Podcast. I thought at the moment it'd be a really good idea to talk about self-doubt and continuing education and how we encourage ourselves to keep going in the face of adversity. There's a lot going on right now, I'm sure you'd agree. It's just different. Everything is different. 2020 can't be compared to any other year in any of our lifetimes. Even if awful or different things have happened to us, it's normally an individual thing. Some of us will have grown up where hideous things were going on for our country, but as worldwide, this is a first. So we start to worry about what we see, what other people are saying, whether we should feel that way, believe those things, and all the other stuff that's going on. So there is some self-doubt, and I'm seeing it more in the groups. It comes up slightly differently in Facebook groups. You don't really hear people saying, I have doubt about this. It's just the way they're putting the messages in there. They're unsure. They're not sure about taking the next step or if that step was the right step. And yet people are saying how wonderful things are and how well they're going, which creates an undercurrent for others of the perfect social media life, and I should have the perfect social media life. So I thought I'd talk to us all about how we just keep on learning and going, buying another course and doing something else and learning something new. So I was a nurse. I was an advanced specialist nurse. I then went on and became a community pediatric nurse. I then did more nursing study in the hospital. I then became, whilst I was doing those, I was studying to be a naturopath, a herbalist and a nutritionist. And then after that, I thought, what's next? I became a coach because I knew that things weren't really going with my clients the way I wanted them to go. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted to see with my nursing background, the tone of voice I would use, my expectations of people are different. People will often, they can take a tablet 3 times a day. But with naturopathy, we have to have buy-in. Nutrition, you have to have buy-in because they've got to not only take maybe 3 tablets a day, 1 breakfast, lunch and dinner, but they also have to go and do all the other things. They have to shop, change their food, change their diet. They've got to exercise. And there's a number of things that you might be suggesting to them, like changing their mindset, doing mindfulness, meditation, yoga. So they have to change a lot, and that can knock our self-confidence as well when we're trying to get them to change what they're doing. So here I was constantly learning. After I did the coaching course, it was a year-long coaching course. I don't do anything by halves, of course. Not long after that, I did the hypnotherapy course, again, a year-long course, postgraduate diploma, because, well, why wouldn't you? But what I'm getting at is it took me until I read a book by Tara Moher, and I didn't pay for the book. A friend of mine, who's a very successful businesswoman, she had it on the side in the holiday house. We met on holiday by accident. They just happened to be going to the same place we were. And this book was sitting on the side, and I started reading it. And in the first chapter, somewhere, very, very early on, it says that women will often not trust their learning. They're more likely to go and get a master's or keep training, keep learning, keep training, doing something else before they launch themselves or before they say they're adequate or capable. Whereas in comparison, men are earning more because from that first degree or that first training, they've gone out and they said, yeah, I can do the job. give me the job. So they're already on the ladder while we're waiting. Waiting for what? For whom? Nobody's going to tell us that. We have to figure that out for ourselves. And once I'd seen that statistic and I looked back at all the things I'd studied and all the things I'd done, the continuous education, I realized that I could, with the help of a mentor, actually start to focus what I was doing. And, it's great that we niche now because it means that we're getting the people that we like, the people we want to see. Whereas prior to niching, I had the people I didn't want to see. I knew exactly who I didn't want to see, and they came along, I would refer them immediately. And but with continuing education, it comes in multiple forms. So when we do our CPE or our CPD, whatever it is that it's called in your world, in your system, there's lots of ways of doing it. So listening to this podcast, this would be a mentoring podcast today because I'm chatting. But in other podcasts, there'll be the herbs, and they would count if you were a herbalist or a naturopath towards your CPD because you're continuing your education. So lots of things can be done by very simple means without doing yet. Oh, I did another herbal course as well in there as well. So another year-long one of those. So there's all of these things that we can do by really focusing and really nutting down, and yet at the same time, what we're not doing is thinking, I can work in this job, I can do this job if I have some support to help me go forward, to help me answer those questions, to help me take those first steps. And that's the wonderful thing about mentoring, is you're getting that support to say, well, do you really need to do all these other hundreds of courses? Or perhaps a weekend course actually might be sufficient. Or perhaps doing extra study in a particular area. I don't believe that, by the way, that I could have done hypnosis on a weekend course. It was 100% a year-long course that I did. But in all honesty, I don't use it that often. So I did a lot of visualizations. As part of the coaching course, I'd learned about visualizations, and I used those a lot with my clients. I should do one on here at some point. If you'd like one, I will put the visualization, the regular one that I use for everyone on here. I've got a few. Maybe I'll do a few of them. But what I'm trying to say is there was no other way really to do hypnosis. But did I need it to advance my skill set and my business where I was at the time? Yeah, I probably did, and I think I did, and I've learnt from it, and I've grown from doing it. But when I look back at how uncertain I was, and yet I had the qualifications to start with, apart from the additional herbal course, everything else I've done, all of these other coaching, hypnosis, they filled a gap. But they're new learnings. And so I've expanded my base, but did I need them? Could I have thought to myself, hypnosis is really interesting, but I could work with a hypnotherapist. I could go out there and find a hypnotherapist that I like, that will work with me, and that I can send my clients with these issues too. And a lot of the time now people contact me for hypnosis, and I actually refer them to a hypnotherapist. So we can get our CPD or CPE, whatever you want to call it, we can get those things through all different media and all different systems. We do need to be a little bit careful about getting them from companies, because when we go to a company seminar or whatever it is, we're learning about their product. And so we're learning about whatever research they've done with their product. We might be learning more. There might be additional or different research. There might be, so for example, NAC, N-acetylcysteine. So all of that research was done, and it was in all the science journals, and so the company was like, well, actually, we can produce this product because of all this science that's been done. They didn't do any of the science. So all the companies are producing the same product so that we can use it for our clients following the science. So when we go to those conferences and seminars, they're talking about a product that everyone makes exactly the same, but with different flavors. Some of them are flavored. I use the plain, by the way. So, but we're talking about a product that has got a lot of research behind it and has a lot of uses. And obviously only for practitioner dispensing. It is a practitioner-only product. And public, if you are listening, you shouldn't be going out to buy this product. It should only be under a qualified and accredited practitioner. So But I mean, those learnings are across the board. Okay, those learnings are for everyone, because NAC has a lot of research already, has a lot of science papers behind it. It has a lot of case studies behind it for all different things. And each time they do some research with it, they find something else. And so they do more research and more. It's, so, but it has side effects and it has downsides. So don't just go, oh, I'm going to go and take it, because that ain't a good idea. But back on track. So we've learned from a company about a product that everybody sells. So going to their seminar, it's fine, because you'll just end up buying it from whichever company, that distributor, or whichever day you're buying from whomever. But with proprietary products that have been made up, that's when we start getting into this following a mantra, following somebody's protocol, following a system set by somebody else that isn't necessarily exactly what we want. And sometimes I feel that's where we start getting worried, because we feel we have to do what the company says. And so we start losing our confidence when it doesn't work for somebody, because we've given them a product off the shelf and it hasn't worked for them. And we're like, oh, company said it would work. I went to that seminar. And that's what can happen at the beginning when we first come out into practice and we've got a lot of knowledge behind us and we're very easily led by company literature. And that's across the board. That's not just naturopaths. I mean, if a plumber went to a conference and it was all about washers by one particular company, they might end up only buying those washers. It's across the board. This isn't something that's separate to medical professionals. So we need to think, how am I getting my CPE, CPD? Where am I getting it from? And do I have a broad enough catch across? So when we niche, we tend to niche, and all we do is that, and we study more and more of that, forgetting that we still need to have a little bit of general education coming in to our studies. We still need to look at other things so that we've got the broader brush. So when I trained to be a nurse, adult nursing, if I did adult nursing, it meant that I could then do anything I wanted, any of the trainings. If I did mental health nursing, that would have limited me. So I wouldn't have been able to do any of the general nursing training, whereas I could go from general nursing into mental health and do it that way. But I couldn't go from mental health into general nursing without retraining or doing a significant portion of the final year. So when we look at things, I need to do some general training. It'd be really good to hear a bit about that. It'd be really good to go to a symposium on mental health and pick and choose what you want, for example, because we see a lot of anxiety in clinic, whether we want to or not. So making sure that we have our niche study, but also have that broader brush as well. And that's what mentors will often do, is you won't just be talking about one company or one product or one thing. You're talking about everything you're doing, things they're doing, and all of the different stuff that goes on as well with your business, for me, it's more about the clients and supporting practitioners with their clients in the clinic. And yeah, you don't get many CBD or CBE from mentoring sessions, but you do get them from the herbal and the science sessions that I do, from the education sessions that I do. And this one now, I don't know how long it'll end up. It won't be very long because it's my bite-sized podcast. When you listen to them, this one, you take notes. Just take a note of the time and the date that you listen to it, and any gems. If you had a little notebook that just said podcasts, then you'd have times and dates, and you could go through afterwards and go, oh well, Geraldine, that one was about mentoring. I get 8 points a year on mentoring, so that's 8 hours. That was a 15-minute podcast. Okay, I can have up to my 8 points. I need to get 20 or 30 or whatever it is. But in her next one, she talked about a particular herb, and so that 15 minutes in that herb, when we talked to the herbal extract company, in those ones, then that would go into a different, she talked 15 minutes about this one particular herb, and that covers my herbal hours because I need X number of herbal hours, or, and then body work. I won't be talking about body work. I don't do it, but I may at some point interview someone There'll certainly be discussions on different things that we do, and that you can look at those and go, okay, well, that was that sphere, that was pathophysiology, or that was. So those come under my CPE and my CPD. So when we look at all the different ways we can get education, there are absolutely tons of ways. And there's lots of practitioners who are giving education, which is really good for us here in Australia and New Zealand, and in the UK as well, because they can, in the UK, you can get the same products we can get on this side of the world. America's a little bit different. They have very different training over there and different products. So a lot of the things I say may not work across in the States as well, whereas it does work in, as I said, Australia, New Zealand and the UK. So we just need to think, what education do I need for the year? How can I get that education? How can I record that education, especially the free education, so that I can get points from it? So that whatever I'm doing or listening to, maybe you've got an app on your phone or in the notes section of your phone, you could record in there how long it was, the date that you listened to it, and you'll make, the theme and the major takeaways from that day. So when we look at our general education across the year, companies are offering things all year, people are offering things all year. Have a look through, set yourself a budget and set yourself the amount of time, and then set yourself maybe this amount is going to be free. Maybe I'll get all my 20 points in free education, but then I'll allow myself 2 or 3 seminars. They're really for the networking, because you'll meet other people in your area, and you might find that hypnotherapist in there, so that you don't have to do that training. But then you've got that networking happening, because that's big at the seminars, is the networking time. And then it might be that you give yourself one big ticket item. But the big ticket item can be anything. I went with a mentor, I went on a retreat. I've been on several retreats now, and those are my big ticket items. So although I'm not getting CPD points for those, because there's no specific educational content, it's mentoring, for me, it was worth the big ticket moment. And I think that's where we need to look at, what is my focus? What is my joy? What big ticket do I want to put on there? Is it going to be a symposium? Is it going to be, 3 or 4 seminars rather than one big one because of where I live? Is it going to be that I buy a course online and I do it online with the practitioner? How much time do you get with a person who's delivering that education? That's really important, making sure there's some time so that you're held accountable to finish that education. So there's a number of things that I'd really like you to look at and think about, because at the beginning of the year, everybody was going to learn a language and learn to play the guitar and things like that. And none of those things happened. I got into pickling, by the way. I've pickled and bottled and I've just made a load of rhubarb compote. I'll have you know, it's delicious. But we all did things in that first, lockdown. And now we're coming into, 2.0 lockdown. And it's time to just get on with things. And some of those things are simple education, and how to get that simple and real education for us all. And also, if you see something, tagging your friends and people that you think might be interested in that education. It's okay to tag them. They'll have a look and, no, I'm not doing that, don't feel like it, or I've done it, or maybe I'll do that next year, I haven't got the money this year. But it does mean, by sharing and tagging and noticing things that are out there, you're going to get the CPD/CPE that you need through the year, because you've made these sensible choices right at the beginning of the year. So I hope that's helped. I hope you've enjoyed today's bite-sized podcast. And I will be back next week with another little bite-sized podcast just for you. See you soon. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.